Okay, so welcome. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about what I have coined this war on alcohol. Is there actually a war on alcohol? Well, I kind of think there is. I don't think that anybody's named it as such, but there are too many things that are kind of lining up here to make me believe otherwise. Now, first, let's get to the disclaimers and the bias. Number one, I'm not a medical doctor. Number two, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a PhD research scientist. I'm none of those things. I am an enthusiast. I would say I'm a consolidator of information because I definitely read and study a lot of information. And I can see a lot of times there is a complete bias in the information that's presented. And therefore, I'm going to tell you what my bias is because these other people don't necessarily do it. I make a living selling and marketing wine, fine wine. I don't make a living telling people to drink more or overdrink or overconsume, but I do make a living selling wine. So when I see information come out and CBS News put something out that said, one drink increases your risk of cancer, that makes me really question what in the world's going on here. And one of the famous quotes that I saw was, people should have informed choice. And right now, they don't have informed choice, they have propaganda. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing. So the Washington Examiner put an article out today. Today is January 30th. Actually, I believe it was January 29th they put out, but today's January 30th. That dry January was such a great thing for the world that they're recommending that you keep it going and you don't ever drink again. And they put in the article that alcohol is a contributing factor to 140,000 deaths. Now, here's what the CDC has to say about that. They also mentioned that number, 140,000, and here's their own list of causes of death. 140,000 would be number 7. But do you see it there at number 7? You don't. So what you do see is you see heart disease, number 1, cancer, number 2, and then the list goes on down. Now, can alcohol have a contributing factor to some of those? It's really difficult to know because the fact is it's never actually been studied in a scientific manner that can actually produce a smoking gun. There is definitely anecdotal and observational studies that say that alcohol could contribute to something like 3 to 6% of cancers. But here's the problem. You can't study that in a vacuum. You cannot put 5,000 people in a test subject in a building or in a study long enough and track every single thing they eat and understand every single thing they do, their exercise routine, their sleep regimen, et cetera, and make any kind of determining factor. So at this point, everything they're saying is propaganda. Now, by no means am I saying that means you're free to drink a bottle of wine a day. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I am suggesting that the scare tactics are quite a bit over the top. And the other thing that's really interesting is it's chasing the younger people into cannabis. I personally don't think cannabis should be against the law. I don't think it should have ever been against the law. I've used cannabis for sleep myself. But at the end of the day, anybody that thinks that smoking or inhaling is safer than having a glass of wine with dinner, you're not thinking clearly, folks. You're just not thinking clearly, and that gets to the propaganda. So really and truly, you have to kind of look at this stuff and understand the bias and who's putting this out there. Now, I do have a couple of theories. We're not going to talk about them today. I do have a couple of theories as to where this is coming from and who's actually promoting this particular war. I think ultra-processed food manufacturers are probably one of the first places I'd look, and it's a trick they've actually done before, back when they villainized dietary fat as causing heart disease. But again, I don't want to get too far down into that rabbit hole. I just want to tell you that if you're drinking in moderation and you make that a personal choice, don't let somebody tell you that each sip or every drink is taking you closer to cancer. They simply cannot know that. Now, by the same token, it could be. It could be, although I have to say in my own personal life, in my own circles, my own family, everybody else, I certainly have wine with dinner probably almost every night. Ironically, I didn't have it last night, but almost every night. And I'm in excellent metabolic health. My inflammation markers are very low. They're below what's typical for a person my age. So you have to be really careful. Now, I'm going to end this on one thing. It was interesting in that, and I hope you'll take a time to watch this video that I put up from Dr. Berg. And he talks about this exact misinformation and propaganda, but with eggs. So there are people out there who are talking about eggs being very bad for your health, causing cancer. Literally, if you took his video and you took what they're saying and you just removed eggs and put alcohol in, you'd have the same freaking video, the same exact thing. They're doing the exact same thing. And what he finally does, he gets to the end, he said what I just said. You cannot possibly study all this stuff in a vacuum. It is not possible. You can't put enough people to have a real study in a room for 5 years or in a study and ask them to drink and eat a certain way and know exactly what causes what. You can't do it. It's not possible. So how they kind of link the logic together or string the logic together is acetaldehyde is produced by your liver when it breaks down alcohol, and that's supposedly a class 1 carcinogenic. I'm not saying that it is or it isn't. Again, I'm not a research scientist. But at the end of the day, if that was really a smoking gun, we wouldn't have 140,000 deaths from cancer. We'd have a lot more because a lot of people do drink. Like I said, myself included. So that's my only thing. By no means let's go back to the disclaimers. I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, not a research scientist, PhD, none of that stuff. I sell wine for a living. And I'm absolutely not saying people should drink more and drink until you're drunk and overconsume and, have a bottle or 2 bottles of wine a day or, have it with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is these people that are out there scaring us to death. That's not right what you're doing because you don't have the proof. That takes you and makes you a propagandist, not somebody that's trying to help society. That's it for now. This is Van Potts. When we go a little further into this, we'll get into some of the different biases that I see and where I think this war might have some roots and some stems. So until then, we'll see you later. Have a good one.